Anyway, listen folks, welcome to the Friday Waffle. This is getting recorded a couple of days early. It's Wednesday night because I've got a few things on over the next couple of days. Just to recap what I've been up to this week. Monday I was away to Cooksoul. Tuesday I was away playing pool. And tonight I was away getting I can't even speak properly, a physiotherapist because I managed to hurt my shoulder at Cooksoul. It's been sore for about 3 months, and she reckons that I've kind of not torn a tendon, just kind of stretched it a wee bit. So I had a sports massage, and I thought it was going to be really comfortable, but no, it's not. It's actually extremely painful. And when I came back, she says, when you get home, what you need to do is go to Morrison's, buy yourself a big bag of frozen peas, and then put ice in it, or put that on it for 20 minutes. I did that, so I'll be going back next week as well. So that was that. Tomorrow I've actually got an early start. I'm away down to Chorley, which isn't far from Blackpool. I've got a 4-hour conference thing. So I'd originally booked a train to get down, and then obviously come back. So tonight I thought, right, I've got the email. Go to any railway station, and you can type in this code and you'll get your tickets. So I typed the code in, and then it said, in fact I didn't type the code in, I put retrieve prepaid tickets, and it says insert the card that you used to buy the tickets, which I don't have because it's in the safe at work. So I'm like, oh bollocks, what am I going to do? So I thought to myself, right, do I just go ahead and book more tickets and then claim the money back? And then I checked Google Maps, and you know what, it's not too far. It's about 3.5 hours drive. So I thought, stuff it, I'll just drive. So I'm driving. It's going to be an early start. I need to leave about 5:30 tomorrow, and then I'll probably not get back up the road until, I don't know, 9 o'clock, whatever it is. But hey ho, it's my own fault for leaving things to the last minute. So yeah, and then on Friday I've got one of my mates coming up. We're going to get a carry out. We're going to get a carry out food wise. I think we're going to get a curry, get some beer, and we're going to watch a film. So looking forward to that on Friday. So yeah, that's kind of been my week. So I've not really got very much to talk about from a kind of gaming perspective. I've got quite a few questions, and it should be easier to answer them now that I've already answered them, so I can just repeat what I said. So I'm looking at last week's Friday Waffle. That was when I did with Lacosa. GTB Films, Great Waffle brought back memories, some memories. I remember the fuddy-duddy approach to new technology. Our school maths department got 3 ZX81s, and they had a lunchtime club where you could go and do a worksheet on basic. You know what, it sounds so dull, but as Lacosa and I were talking about a few weeks ago, when computers first came along, it didn't matter. You weren't bothered about playing video games, you just wanted to use it. Just the mere typing on a keyboard was exciting. Seeing your name appearing on a screen, that was exciting. So yeah, worksheets or whatever it was that Alan was doing was exciting. Well, Alan just says it was really dry and boring, but we still went. Then a friend ignored the worksheets and wrote a simple side shooter using punctuation marks for the ship and aliens. So that was the point of these machines. Laughed at selling the hardware to move in with a girlfriend. That's what I had to do. There we go. The sacrifices we made. I wouldn't do it now, I have to say. Anyway, I did the same, then bought a PC case and built a new machine by then. Built a new machine stealth bit by bit. Yeah, what he means was you could buy yourself a new graphics card or a new sound card, a new memory, and your partner would never know because you sneaked home at lunchtime, put it in the computer, and they didn't know. They didn't know you'd spent £300 on a graphics card. Wonderful. Yeah, gaming since the 70s, my good mate Steve. Super Waffle, thank you both. I could comment on so many things mentioned, but I'm feeling shit, so I'll keep this short. Sorry to hear that, Steve. I hope you're feeling much better, mate. Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure what's wrong, but there's so many germs and bugs and that doing the rounds at the moment, so I hope you're feeling better really quick, mate. My dear friend, what game was the first game you played with each room or level having different names? Take care, mate. The first game that I can think of, now it's a toss up between Blagger by Alligator Software, that was the one that was programmed by Tony Crowther, or Manic Miner. Now I think Manic Miner came out first, because I think Blagger was a kind of shameless rip-off. So I think, yeah, Manic Miner would be the first one, but I think it's perfectly possible that I actually played Blagger before I played Manic Miner. Can't remember exactly. So I'm going to have to say both. I'm going to say Blagger and Manic Miner. Blagger had names. I think the first one was called the Bank Vault, if I remember rightly. Can't remember what the second one was. Probably because I never got to level 2. Blagger is a ridiculously difficult game. Of course, China Miner as well. Yeah, that had names, but I think that came after Manic Miner. But Manic Miner is a classic one. Miner 2049er as well. I think that had names. That did. Certainly, Bounty Bob Strikes Back definitely had names. But again, I think Manic Miner or Blagger were the first. It was one of these games. I think was the first one that I played that had them. So thank you, Steve. David Connolly, my cousin Paddy died recently, and you looked a bit like Lycosa. It's sort of strange viewing for me, but in a good way. So thank you for the healing. I appreciate this channel a lot. Well, firstly, Dave, just want to say my sincere, no good wishes. Not good wishes. That's the wrong thing to say. My thoughts are with you, mate. Sorry to hear about your cousin. And it's interesting what you're saying there, that Lycosa reminds you of him, because there was a little old woman that used to. I've lost both my parents. My mum died in 1998, and my dad died in 2013. There's a little old woman that I've not seen for years, but I used to see her when I was out taking the dogs for a walk, and well, she didn't look that much like my mum. She had the same kind of hair. She had the same little kind of rosy cheeks. My mum had little, it was like broken veins in her cheeks. I've got them as well, actually, which is why I get a red face sometimes. But yeah, this little old woman had the same, but she always smiled. She always, she'd always smile when she went past. And any time I saw her, it just made me think about mum, and it gave me a nice feeling seeing her, because it kind of brought back my mum, even just for the few seconds, which was weird. And more recently, I was actually playing pool. I don't know, about a month ago, and there was a guy and a couple of guys on an adjacent table, and one of the guys reminded me of my dad. Again, he didn't look exactly like him, but he had the same mannerisms, he had the same kind of hair, kind of the same size, same kind of age, before my dad died, obviously. And yeah, I kept kind of looking across at him, and I hope he didn't see me thinking, this weirdo's staring at. I didn't stare, but just, I was kind of watching him, not in a creepy way, but it just made me happy. It made me smile. I think that could be dad. It's a weird thing. So I totally get what you're saying there, Dave. Yeah, I mean, it's I've got to say a huge thank you to you, Dave. You have said some really positive things about my channel over the years. You've always encouraged me a lot about where I should take my channel and that kind of stuff, and you're a very, very positive person. I think you would do well as a kind of life coach for people. You're so positive about things. You've got this great manner, and yeah, I'm eternally grateful for the advice you've given me, and for watching my channel. And it's great that you enjoy watching it. Just before I kind of move on, Dave, I know we've been saying about, yeah, we'll get out for a coffee. Just to let you understand, Dave lives in Glasgow. I live in Livingston, which isn't that far away. So Dave and I have been kind of talking about meeting up for quite a long time, and we've never got round to it. But as human beings, we're terrible at meeting people, and with the best will in the world, you say, oh yeah, I'll give you a shout, we'll go out for a beer, we'll go out for a coffee, we'll go for a bite of lunch, whatever. And we never do it, and it's not because, excuse me, it's not because you don't want to do it, or you have no intention of doing it. It's just life kind of gets in the way, and we end up not doing it. But what I'm going to do, Dave, is I am going to message you over the weekend. We will arrange to meet up, and we will 100% make it happen, because to be fair, we did arrange it before Christmas, and I think you replied to me and I didn't get the message, and I'm like, bollocks. But I will message you, Dave. But anyway, listen, mate, I'm glad that video put a wee smile on your face. You know, and I do totally get what you're saying, mate, and you keep up the great work, especially with your new watch channel as well. Gary TH05PB, there's a mouthful and a half. Just found your channel good video, and you bring back many memories I've forgotten to miss the time. I have one ask though. Can you ask the man on the right to adjust his microphone next time? It was hard to understand what you said at the time at times, as he was breathing into it loudly. Now he's obviously talking about Lacosa. I know what you mean. And I'm going to let Lacosa answer it. It's not that loud, but it is fucking annoying. I'm used to my old headset, which could only pick up the voice if I was practically eating the microphone. So keep having this one too close to the old gob. Yeah. And then Gary replied, I have sensitive ears. Sorry, I didn't mean to offend. I really enjoyed what I could hear. So I do apologise for Lacosa's behaviour. Like I said, I'm going to give him a stern talking to. But you know, thanks for tuning in, Gary, and nice to have you on board. Right, that was the questions from last week, and then I've got questions from the 5th of January. Right, Delboy, nice conversation earlier, my friend. As a reminder, 2 topics. First time with public domain discs and your thoughts. Yeah, public domain discs were a thing that kind of arose when 16-bit machines came along. Obviously they didn't exist when 8-bit machines came along, because I don't think you could you get public domain tapes? I don't think they were really a thing, not that I'm aware of. If you could get them, let me know. But yeah, discs were a thing. Now, if you don't know what a public domain disc is, it basically tells you what it says in the tin, or this, you know, it was a disc that had software that was in the public domain. In other words, free software. So when the Atari ST and the Amiga came along, this whole kind of scene appeared on the back of these. Usually you would get adverts in magazines where you could send off and get 10 discs, and you'd maybe pay £2 a disc, whatever. I think Lacosa was actually talking about that. I can't remember if it was in the video that you've not yet seen, but anyway, he was talking about that, and he said that he used to quite literally buy, you know, tons and tons of these discs. I didn't really buy many. No, I never really bought many. In fact, I think the only ones that I bought was when I saw an advert. It was either in I was going to say computer and video games, or it might have been Amiga format, or it might have been what do you call it, Amiga Power. I can't remember exactly, but there was an advert, and it was a Spectrum emulator. Now, prior to hearing that term emulator, being used in computer game terms. I never really knew, I'd never heard the term emulator. Obviously, we know what an emulator is. It's a piece of software that recreates another system, and in doing so, it allows you to, run software, primarily games. So emulators are a great way of getting a new system and games for not a lot of money, or in many cases completely free. So yeah, I saw an advert on the Amiga for, I can't remember, there was one for the Commodore 64, there was one for what do you call it, the ZX Spectrum, and yeah, I sent off for these, and it was like magic being able to put a disc into your Amiga and being able to play a Spectrum game. That was like, wow, I've never owned a Spectrum, and now I can play Spectrum games. The only downside to it was they were extremely basic. Some of them maybe didn't have any sound, and in many cases they ran a lot slower than they should have. So instead of running 100%, they may have ran at like, I don't know, 50%. So yeah, whilst they were interesting to use, I remember being frustrated at the lack of speed on them. But yeah, that was kind of the only ones. I never really bought any music demos. I think part of the reason as well was pretty early on, I got to know a few contacts who had contacts within the sort of games industry, probably more specifically the pirate industry. So these guys were getting games, for nothing. So, within a few months of having an Amiga and Atari ST, I was able to get games for nothing, and a lot of the time you get demos and that kind of stuff. So I had other sources of software, but the great thing with public domain discs was, they weren't very much money, and you would get a disc that would maybe have 4 or 5 games in it. A lot of the time the games would be pretty shit, but it was still software, and these machines were brand new, and you just wanted to be able to load a game and play a game, whatever. It didn't matter if it was crap, it was a new game to play. So yeah, I never really embraced the public domain scene that much, Craig. Plus dial-up internet and how you feel now, like tying up the phone, download managers, download times, online flash games. Yeah, I'm old enough to remember what life was like owning a computer before the internet came along. All that changed was for me in 1997, when I was living in Moan at that point. I got a modem, and as Craig said, yep, you had to plug the cable into your phone socket. You had to unplug your phone, plug the cable into the socket, run the cable into your modem, and then you had to then you had to load your AOL or whatever it was. I can't remember. I think it was TalkTalk I had to begin with. And yeah, when you were using the internet, you couldn't use your phone. Now that would have been a problem if you lived in a house where somebody wanted to use the phone, like your parents, whatever. Fortunately, I had my own house, so it didn't matter. Nobody was going to bother me and moan at me for having it plugged in. But yeah, it was notoriously slow. I mean, the download speeds that you got, the download speed I get now on my my fibre broadband, I can download about 40 megasecond. Back then you were getting the dizzy speeds of like 2.5k, possibly 3k per second. So it's like thousands of times faster now. But back then it was just, it would be actually interesting to have an emulator that emulates the internet using a dial-up connection. That would be interesting if there was something like that. But yeah, the old downloading stuff. The great thing was, when you had the internet, you didn't have to worry about buying emulators. You could just go in and download them yourself if you were patient. Download managers were a piece of software which came out, which allowed you to resume a download, because in the early days of the internet, if you were downloading, like, I don't know, a 500k file, at 2K per second, it would maybe get to 30%, and then your computer would go off, the internet connection would drop the connection, and you had to start again, and it was a complete pain in the arse. The number of times you were downloading like a big file that was maybe 5 meg in size, it would get to 42% and then disconnect. So download managers were a little application that you ran, and it meant that if the download stopped, you could restart. So you could go to your bed, if the computer crashed, whatever, you could restart it most of the time. So yeah, download managers were an absolute essential bit of software from 19 kind of early internet days. Download times, oh yeah, I mean, I can still specifically remember downloading MAME games from Dave's Video Game Classics, and it was alright when it was these, because your average kind of game would be, I don't know, maybe 400k. Some of the games like Space Invaders were probably like 26k, whatever, so that was fine, you could download them no problem. But when MAME started to support Neo Geo games, some of these games, I mean, they were like a meg. Like King of Fighters would be 14 meg. That quite literally would have taken you the whole night. You'd have to leave it downloading all night. You can't believe how slow the internet was back then. So mental. I mean, would I want to go back to these days? Not at all. But it was mental. But anyway, listen, Craig, thanks very much for opening up some old wounds. Great stuff. Right, wee Bob Art. Thanks for answering my question, Alan. No, I didn't mean to get a perfect 9 data. So I didn't manage to get a perfect 9 data. Yeah, I was playing 180, which was quite a decent darts game it came out for the Spectrum, Commodore 64, Amstrad, and I was playing it in a live stream a few weeks ago, and I actually managed to get a 9 data. Topic for next time: do you ever use gaming quotes or game type voices during normal conversations, or in answering someone? For example, "Get over here, Mortal Kombat." If not, what is your favourite speech sample from the Atari ST Amiga days? Yeah, I mean, there's been various quotes over the years. I can't actually remember. I can't remember any speech, like bit of speech, that I would use in normal conversation. But there was ones that I loved, like I don't know, green elf was about to die. Blue elf needs food badly. What else? That was obviously the arcades. You had the classic, another visitor. Stay a while. Stay forever. Impossible Mission. Then there was obviously Beachhead 2 with Medic. I'm hit. Who's trying to text me? Oh, that's fine. Yeah, brilliant. I'm trying to think of any. There was one. Oh, what was it called? Not Mortal Kombat. Oh, bloody hell! What's it called? What was the name of that game? Killer Instinct. Spinal. I can't remember what the purpose is. Yeah, Spinal was one of the characters, but my mate used to say it all the time. Spinal. Yeah, I can't think of any that I would use in sort of everyday life, Bob. But yeah, there was plenty of classic kind of phrases. What was your favourite speech sample? Yeah, probably nothing really from the Atari ST Amiga days. I mean, I did love the intro music to what do you call it? Starglider. Starglider. Dang, 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 dang. From Rainbird. Yeah, it did sound much better than that, I have to say. But yeah, I mean, I think, the Beachhead 2 on the Commodore 64, Impossible Mission, some classic speech. So anyway, Bob, thank you very, very much, mate, for the question. Next is Colin Jones Ponder. You've reminded me of an old joke. A bloke goes into a computer shop and says, "Can I have a space bar for my Atari ST?" And the salesman replies, "That sounds like a fair trade to me." Right, another great waffle, and to keep them going, I'm giving you a deep one this week. Many people who have given up their jobs to become full-time YouTubers are now regretting it due to Google seemingly doing all they can to restrict revenue paid out, and are having to rely on other ways to top up their income. For example, Patreon, merchandise, and even other physical ventures like locations, pubs, etc. What's your take on this? Tough. I don't have any sympathy at all with any YouTuber that is full time and is now having to do other things, because let's be honest, we would all love to be able to do this full time. I would absolutely love to be able to make videos constantly. Love it. You know, it's a hobby. I do it for free. I mean, I've never made any secret that I get about £9, £8-9 a month through YouTube, and that is it. You know, can't survive in that. But anyone that's been able to give up their full-time job to do YouTube is extremely fortunate. Possibly a tad naive, because you never know how it's going to go. And if it means I've got to go back and get a real job, then tough. You know, I don't have any sympathy at all with these people. You know, there's a certain young lady who now refers to herself in the male sort of term, and she or he, whatever we want to call it, she brings in a considerable amount of money in Patreon, and yet she puts out, I don't know, not even one video every month, and yet she's bringing in, you know, this money, and I just think that's absolutely taking the piss. So, you know, if people like that have got to go and get a full-time job, then welcome to the real world. You know, it annoys me. It annoys me when I hear people scrounging money, whether it's through Kickstarter or whatever, you know, getting people to give them money every month. I mean, it's up to them. If they want to do that, that's absolutely fine. But you know what? Don't come running to me crying and go, "Oh, I've got to go and get a full-time job. I need to go and get a job in Asda or whatever." Tough. You know, you're bloody lucky the fact that you've been able to even do this full-time for even a short space of time. So absolutely no what do you call it? Don't have any sympathy. Yeah, thank you very much, Colin. Much appreciated. Taking time to ask me a question. Right, the wonderful Milthy Swinbuckle 5158. Hello again, Mainmeister. Some questions for the next waffle. When it comes to modern games, I don't play them that much. Even if I enjoy a modern game, I still inevitably go back to playing old classics. For example, Robotron, Sensible Soccer, International Karate, etc, etc, etc. Why is this, and are you the same? Kinda. I think for me, a lot of modern games, they require too much investment. You know, you've really got to spend hours and hours and hours. I mean, you hear of people putting like 100 hours into a game, and I don't have the time, you know, to kind of play these games. But more importantly, I get extremely frustrated. I struggle with like complex game mechanisms, having to craft things and find food and build weapons and all that kind of stuff. It just bores me, and I actually find they're not satisfying. You never ever play one of these games and complete it and say, "Oh wow, I can't wait to tell my pal that I completed whatever, I don't know, Resident Evil 2. Nobody cares. There's no, I mean, you might enjoy the journey, but actually completing it, there's no satisfaction. But playing these old games, getting high scores, getting to the next level, it's a tremendous feeling of achievement. But I think for me as well, as I say, is the lack of time. So these games fit my kind of lifestyle perfectly. You know, I can fire up the Mister, have a game of Super Pipeline 2, I can put my main cab on, I can have a couple of games of Defender, I can play for half an hour and feel fulfilled, had a good time, enjoyed what I've done, and you know, it doesn't take up my entire night. But saying that, and I've said this a few times, there's a lot of like old style games, 8-bit games, 16-bit games that I enjoyed back in the day, and I wouldn't really play now for any more than a few minutes. I just find them, I don't know, not so much monotonous. I just find that they're quite boring to play. They're quite limited, whatever. There are a few games. I mean, your things like Whizball and Super Pipeline, you know, Drop Zone, whatever. There are some classic games, but I would say by and large the majority of 8-bit games I wouldn't really have any interest in playing. I don't mind playing them in a sort of live stream type thing, but I wouldn't really load it up for fun to play. So yeah, I mean, I do have a pretty, I would say probably 50% of the time I play modern games, and 50% of the time I play classic games. So I do like the mixture. I like the challenge. I like the pick up and play aspect. You know, even, you know, I've got my little RGB whatever it's called on my bedside cabinet. So if I want a quick game of Rolling Thunder before I go to bed, I can do it. You know, you couldn't really do that with a modern game. So I like both. My last question is, are we all suffering from the same problem? Gluttons for punishment, watching and waiting, trying out all the games when we can and hoping for that next big rush, that might just take us back to those magical times of old. Are we nothing but a bunch of dirty digital junkies waiting for that next fix, when some poor pixelated robot might haphazardly wander into our path so we can happily and mercilessly blast it away into oblivion? Fitting, be it even for a short time, the ever-growing nostalgia void between our ears. I'm not quite sure what the hell you're on about there, Milfy, but I'm going to give you my answer based on what I think you're talking about. Choice. Nowadays, we are utterly spoiled for choice, ruined for choice. Whether it's films, you know, we've got terrestrial TV, you've got your Sky Movies 1, 2 and 3, you've got Paramount, you've got Netflix, you've got Disney. There's all these subscription channel things. So, you know, when I'm at work, well, you know, I'll be chatting to one of my colleagues and we'll say, oh, have you seen such and such a film or this programme about nah. And because of that, we're all watching different programmes now. Back in the 70s and 80s, there was like 3 or 4 channels. So on a Saturday night, you would watch It's a Knockout, you would watch The Generation Game, you would watch the snooker, and then you would go to work or school and you would talk about, did you see the snooker? Yeah, of course I saw the snooker, because that's all there was. Now we're ruined for choice, and that extends to computer games. You can, I mean, obviously emulators, I'm not going to count that because that's a thing that I've chosen to do, have all these thousands of games. But, you know, you've got things like Game Pass, you've got PlayStation memberships, you can open up your Xbox, you've got a choice of 100 games to play. You've got your Humble Bumble packs on Steam, you can buy, like, pay £10 and get 100 games. We've got hundreds and hundreds of games to play. Then you've got things like music. I mean, back in the good old days, you went to your mate's house, you said, oh, can I look at your record collection? You would flick through his vinyl albums and, you know, you would play records and look at cover albums and that. Nowadays, we've got Spotify, we've got Amazon Music. All these things are controlled through like smart speakers. You can just pick any song that you want and ask it to play and it will play it. And the sad thing for me is, you know, that extends to like households. So you might have a family of like 3 or 4 people and everybody's listening to different music. You're listening to your heavy metal, your wife or your partner's listening to something else, bloody Boyzone, and your daughter's listening to bloody Kanye West, whatever shite they listen to. and there's no commonality. You know, you don't talk about things because everybody's got their own personal little headphones on. And even things like bloody dating. I mean, I separated from my missus 5 years ago, and I discovered Tinder, and I became hooked in that for about a year. I was messaging people constantly, you know, going out on dates all the time, and it was ridiculous. You've got Tinder open, you're looking, oh, she looks nice, oh, don't like the look of her, flick, 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 oh, swipe right, swipe left, whatever. And, you know, I would go out on dates with people, and then you thought, oh, that went well, and then you'd get a bloody message 5 minutes later saying, oh, there's no spark. You're like, fucking hell, you've only spoke to me for bloody 10 minutes over a latte. And yeah, people have become spoiled. We've got everything there. You know, we've just got unlimited TV, we've got unlimited games, we've got unlimited films, we've got unlimited dates. You name it, you know, even food. You know, at one time you think, right, well, we'll go to the local chippy. Now you can phone your local pizza, you can get a Chinese takeaway, you can get an Indian, whatever. You know, McDonald's, Greg's the bakers, they do bloody things. So yeah, we've just become completely absorbed in choice. And for me, it's ruined society, absolutely ruined society. Sorry for that rant there, folks. But yeah, I just think, I don't know if that's what you were looking for, the kind of answer you're looking for there, Milfy. But yeah, and we're always looking for the best thing, you know. Going back to the dating thing, you know, you could, oh, you know, you're looking for a certain type, and that don't like her, whatever. And it's, people are just craving the perfect fix, and it's never going to happen. And you know, I just think society is much worse off for that reason. Anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox and move on to down the rabbit hole. Alan, I finally have a question for you. It's just been announced that an Atari A400 mini console is coming out. I'm a big Atari fan, and although I have got neither of the 8-bit computers, the 400 always looked way cooler to me than the 800. So, should I get one, and what games in your library do you recommend? I can hook up a memory stick loaded with ROMs, so any games will be available to me. There you go, Kev, you've just answered my question. You've just demonstrated my point perfectly. You're getting a brand new system, and you're going to have access to every single game. And that is the problem. I would say to you, Kev, don't do that. Just put selected games. You know the best thing to do, Kev? Go into YouTube, type in 100 best Atari games, download them, don't bother with anything else, you know, and then that way you've got the 100 best games there. But yeah, I've seen that. It's interesting. I'm quite surprised that it's coming out, because an awful lot of people will not know what the Atari A400 is, because it wasn't a machine that was readily available in the UK. I mean, I think you could get it, but it died. The Atari machines kind of died before the computer hobby got a grip in the UK. You know, these machines came out sort of late 1970s, and pretty much by about 1983 they'd kind of stopped being a thing. So I'm surprised I've picked the A400 console. But yeah, it's an iconic machine. I'm lucky enough to actually have an original. It's got a horrible keyboard. It's one of these kind of dead flesh membrane type things. I don't know if it's any better or worse than the Spectrum. I've actually heard somebody saying it's worse. So there you go. If it's worse than the 48K Spectrum, you know you're in for something completely shit. But as far as games go, Kev, I mean, there's a whole raft, there's a huge scene of early computer games. That's the wonderful thing about the Ataris. They were out in the early days, and so it was all about playability rather than graphics and all this kind of stuff. But standout games that you've got to check out: Drop Zone. You've got to play Atari 800 Drop Zone. Bruce Lee, that's the definitive version in my opinion. Fort Apocalypse, you know how much I love Fort Apocalypse. The Atari 400, sorry, the Commodore 64 game's great. but the Atari 800 one is the best. Now, the Atari 400 only had, I think it was 48k of memory. I'm assuming because it's an emulator machine, it'll support 800 games. I would be very surprised if it only supported 4. It's not going to support just 400 games. It's going to support 800. But yeah, what else? Stealth was an early game. Let me think. Rescue and Fractalis, the Eidolon. These are two great games because Atari had a faster processor, so the games, they were the definitive versions. What else? Bounty Bob Strikes Back. Bounty Bob, the original. Miner 2049 or Bounty Bob Strikes Back. Yeah, these are all great games, fantastic games. There's so many really good games, Load Runner and all that kind of stuff. A lot of original games that never really, never ever saw the light of day in the UK. So yeah, I would say if you've not got any other means of playing Atari 800 games, Kev, go and get yourself one. I'm sure you won't be disappointed. The Atari is an excellent computer. So thanks for that, Kev. And last question is Highlander UK. Hi Alan, I don't comment much these days, but here's a question for the next waffle. Have any games that you've played ever genuinely scared you or given you the creeps? The obvious game is going to be, and I just mentioned that actually, Rescue and Fractalis. It was a game that came out from LucasArts. It's a sort of 3D type. You're in a spaceship and you're flying through mountains, and it used fractal graphics, which is like procedurally generated graphics. Go and look it up. And yeah, you've got to rescue pilots of downed ships, and when you landed, the little pilot would run towards the spaceship. He would knock on the door, you'd open up the door and he'd come up. Every now and again you'd get an alien that would appear, and he would just jump out. And it wasn't really the graphics themselves. I mean, the graphics were fine. It wasn't the graphics that scared you. It was more the surprise. It was a jump scare, and you would get them thudding against the sort of the side of the spaceship. So that was a genuine scare. Can't think of anything else game wise. One related gaming scare thing would be Way of the Exploding Fist by Melbourne House. Mid tape loader, you got the shriek of a ninja. I think it was taken from, is it The Big Boss? It was a Bruce Lee film, but that scared the bejesus out of me and probably everybody that loaded the tape. Commodore Amiga, can I think of any scary bits? Nah, not really. Not that I can think of. I'll probably think of them. As always with these questions, there'll be something that will pop up later on. Obviously, again, another obvious one would be the original Resident Evil. That bit where you're walking along the corridor, you've got two windows on your right hand side, and you get two kind of Rottweilers jumping through, not Rottweilers, Doberman dogs, I think they were, jumping through the glass, and just the sound of breaking glass. Just, you absolutely shit yourself. I can still remember playing Resident Evil with a mate. It was a Sunday afternoon, it was daylight, and these dogs jumped through the bloody glass, and I just shit myself. So yeah, I mean, there's been some games that have got good atmosphere to it, but from a point of view, I think there's one game, what the hell is it called again? Scarabius. I can't remember exactly, but it's a kind of maze game, and that had a few jump scares, if I remember rightly, when the thing would suddenly appear in front of you. Yeah. So anyway, listen folks, that has kind of been going on quite enough. I'm going to get going. I should be along as always on Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, hopefully 7 o'clock till 9. I will, if there's any change to that, I will put a little post on Facebook, Discord, whatever, and on YouTube. I just want to say a massive thank you, by the way, to everybody that continually supports the channel. I've picked up over 100 subscribers in the last month, which has been wonderful. For me, that's massive. That's a really big jump. So thank you very much to everybody that's continually supporting me. Thank you very much to everybody that's just recently subscribed to the channel. Hopefully you're going to be watching this. Hopefully I will be keeping you entertained and you're going to keep wanting to watch the videos. Yeah, that is it, folks. So go and have a great weekend. I will hopefully be along on Sunday. And as always, thank you very much for watching.